What's going on, guys? This is part 6 of the tutorial, and today we are going to implement a user interface for chatting with the clients. So besides that, we have a few things to get out of the way as well. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start off by adding a minor variable over here, and this is going to be a count for the main server. So basically, when we run the status con option, which we made in the last part, that would be this one over here, we're gonna want to display how many times the main server has fired off, and that's just so we can make sure that it's working as intended. But yeah, even before getting to that, let's just leave the variable here in place. We're also going to be implementing the client log function so that we can keep logs for all of our conversations. So let's go ahead and create a few variables for that. So we're gonna need a list. I guess we can call it client log, like that. And this is gonna work like a list inside of a list. So basically it's gonna look like this: username, and then the next entry is gonna be the list. So message 1, message 2, you get the idea, right? And besides that, we're gonna need another list, and we can call this one notifs, which, you know, this is gonna be basically our list of notifications, and this is where we're gonna keep all the unread messages for each client. All right, so with that said, how are we gonna implement the logs? Well, it's gonna work kind of the same way that we implemented the log for the system in the last time. So let's just jump right into it, and let's come down here, and we're going to create a function quite similar to this one. Let's put a little commentary here first though. Print text and record it in the system logs. So we're gonna do something similar to this, except we're gonna record everything on the new list we just created, right? So print text and record it in client logs, and we can call this one print C. The one difference is we're gonna need the client username along with the text. So the way we can do this is we can do a loop and go through all the entries in the client log, and then if that entry, if the first argument of that entry matches the client, then we can do I1, and we can append the message. All right, so basically, remember how I said it's gonna be like username, and then there's another list inside of the list. So these are the messages we're appending right here, just to clear that up. So let's go back to that. So append text, and finally, of course, we have to go ahead and print the text. All right, nice. So that out of the way, let's see. I guess the next thing we could do is actually go ahead and create the chat user interface. So yeah, let's come all the way down here. You guys probably remember this user interface we created last time. So we're gonna do something similar to this, except it's gonna be a separate screen just to interact with the active conversation. So let's put a little comment here first, and we can call this one refresh chat. We will need an argument, which will be the client, basically the username. And I'm gonna start off like usual. Let's clear up the screen. Then we'll print the same message. Python chat server. Like that. Then we can do like, let's put the username so we know who we're chatting with, right? Chatting with. We'll make it a string. It's already a string, but it's kind of like a phobia of always making sure it's either a string or an int or whatever type. And then we can also show, I think it would be nice to show the other clients we have active in the background, so we know like, oh, maybe there's another 2 or 3 clients connected that we have to go back and answer or whatever, right? So let's do string length and we'll do clients. So this is gonna show the other clients we have connected on the system. We can do clients active, like that. Cool. So now let's get our line break. Print that, nice little separation there. All right. So now we need to go through the client log and we need to print all of the messages found inside of each client's list. So let's do a loop here. We'll do for J, actually before that, well, because we might not have any messages, so maybe we want to put a check like if length client log is greater than 0, just in case, right? We'll do for J in client log. Okay, so if, make it a string, so if J0, this is getting the username, is equal to the client, which is the argument we're passing here. So if we match it with the client, and then we should check if inside of that, if the length of the other list inside of the client is greater than 0, right? Because it's a list inside of a list. Then we're gonna have to do another loop. So we'll do for k in J1 print k. It looks a little confusing, but we're not really doing too much here. We're just well, if you look at how this is working, it makes more sense. So first we're checking that the client argument matches this username, and then we're running another loop inside of it to print all of the messages, right? So that's basically what's going on over there. And yeah, so otherwise we're just gonna go and print like anything, I guess. So if we still didn't receive any messages, we can just print like 3 dots, just like we did over here, right? And yeah, do another line break here for good measure. All right, so with that said, let's go back into the server handler. Okay, so here in the server handler, we're gonna have to do a few changes here, right? I think I mentioned in part 1 or 2 that this variable over here is gonna control whether we have the chat interface activated or not. So if it's active, we're gonna go ahead and turn this to true, and if it's false, we set it as false, and then we're just gonna display the regular interface that shows all the client connections. So this is where we're gonna have to check if that's active to refresh the incoming messages. All right, so let's do that right now. So what we need to do is over here, we're gonna have to check if active, then we can call this function here, and we have the client here, so let's copy that, and we're gonna go ahead and basically refresh the screen. So this is in case we're in the active screen and we receive a message, then we can go ahead and refresh it so to display the new message, right? Now the other thing we're gonna do is, if that is not the case, so else, we're gonna go ahead and add a notification so that in the main screen we see a parenthesis saying, oh, you received 1, 2, 3 new messages from this user. All right, so we'll do for n in notifs like that, and basically the notifications is gonna work like username and 0, right? So if we receive 2 new messages, this is gonna be a 2, right? Just so you guys get an idea. So, oops, I already had one over there. So if string n 0, the first argument, if it's equal to the client user, then we're gonna add +1 to it, like that. All right, and the last thing we need to do is, so we created the print C function, which requires the client and the text. So we're gonna have to go ahead and change this. Since this is a client message, we'll change this to C, and we'll copy that, and we have to do it like this. Yeah, so this is gonna already start adding this to the specific client conversation we're having. All right, yeah, that looks right. Cool. All right, so we got that out of the way. Let's see, what should we do next? So remember I put in the main server count here. I think it's a good time for us to go ahead and show that in our status here. So what we can do is we'll just add a print 0, and we'll call this main server, and basically we could do a parenthesis here and simply add the amount of times that we ran the main server, right? And the reason we do this is, what if we receive 2 clients, but we have like 5 entries on the main server account? So it's like something is clearly wrong, right? So if we have 2 clients connected, we should have only 3 main server account. So we want to check this later on to make sure it's working accordingly. All right. So we're gonna have to do a few changes on the main server at this point. Mostly we need to, over here, once we add a new client, we're also gonna have to create the log entry along with the notification entry. So basically we'll do all of that work right here along with initially adding the client. So let's do that right now. So first let's add it to the client log, and that's gonna work like I showed you guys previously. So we're gonna do a string open parentheses, and then I think we can just copy this code over here, and basically this code gets the username like that. Boom. So after the parentheses we can just add an empty list, right? So again, so it works like this: username, message1, message2, so on. So yeah, so we'll just add the empty list, and then the print C function is gonna be responsible for automatically adding the messages here: message1, message2, etc. And also the notifications need to be added here. So notifs append, and we're gonna do this pretty much the same way. Like that. I'm gonna copy this, and we'll do this like that, and we'll put it to 0 so that in the beginning there's 0 notifications. Alright, so I think this is good. Let's leave a little comment here. Okay. Alright, cool. So let's see what else. Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything over here. Oh, okay. So right here on the main server thread, this is where we have to +1 on the main server account to display that in our status connection. So let's just do svc +1. And finally, we have to do a little bit of work down here. All right. So let's take a look at this for a second. If you guys remember, we were just handling the chat messages right there on the main screen. So now, inside of this loop, we're gonna have to actually enter the chat mode, right? We're gonna have to set active to true and then start the interaction with the user. So alright, let's do while true active equals true, like that. And then we can invoke the refresh chat function. Okay, so we're gonna do string clients act. Let's copy that. And yeah, so basically act is gonna be the entry inside of the clients, a list, and then we need to get the username, which is the first entry, so 0, and that's gonna put us inside of the main interactive chat interface. Cool. So after that, we should go ahead and clear the notifications. So every time we activate a client, we're gonna set notifications for that specific client to 0. So let's do that right away. So we'll do if notifs act 1. So if we get a number there that's greater than 0, then we're just gonna go ahead and set it to 0. Clear notifications. Nice. And then we can leave this over here. So this is not gonna change. We're still gonna leave this to allow the user to send the message. Now the difference here is when they type quit this time, we don't necessarily want to just break out of it, right? We want to be able to set active to false first. So if the message is quit or the message is a blank message, let's do like break, but let's do active equals false first. Yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna send the message but we also need to add it to the logs, right? So let's do print C, and then we do string, where was it? Right here, clients act 0, like that. Let me copy this over here, and we'll do comma here, since this is the user we want to add the message to. So we'll do like this plus, actually let's do like that, user plus, so it shows the username, and we'll do the message. Yeah. So that's it. It's that time. We're gonna transfer this over to the other computer and run the program. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. Alright, let's run it. Enter username. Okay, it's listening. Let's do it here. Okay. Let's connect the IP address. Oh, there's the connection. Okay, so if I do send a message, Yeah, it looks like it's working. Now, if I enter here, let's see if we have the logs. There we go, we do have the logs. And you can see if I type quit, it should take me back to the main screen. It's taking a little bit of time, but it did work. There's no issues with the program. The only thing that we are missing is the notifications. I don't see them being displayed. They should be right here next to the username. So let's bring the script up. Oh, this is very obvious what's going on. Alright, let me close the recording on the other computer and we're gonna dive back in to fix that. We just forgot to add the notifications over here to each client. So we'll be right back to fix that up. Alright guys, so here in our refresh function, we need to display alongside each client the notifications that client has, right? So let's think about this for a second. Inside of this for loop, we're gonna want to check if the client has any notifications to display next to their name. So let's do if length notifications, oops, that's a typo right there, and notifications, how can we do this? So what if we just do x equals 0 and notifications, and we'll do x1. So this is basically checking if the notifications for that client is greater than 0. Then we're gonna take this over here and we're gonna print a different message because we might also not have any notifications, in which case we'll just go ahead and print a regular message. So let's do it like that, boom, and right after here we'll do a space, parentheses, plus, gotta convert it to a string, notifications, x1, close it up. Oh, we need the plus here actually. Then we'll add, close the parentheses. Otherwise, we're just gonna go ahead and print the client regular. So I think that should work. Oh, except that we have to add +1 to the x, right? Otherwise it's gonna show notifications for the same client over and over. And with that said, let's run it back. Username. There we go. Now let me open it up here on my other computer. Alright, let's start the connection. IP address, port. Let's see if everything goes according to plan this time. There's the main connection. Oh, we have the notification. So now let me send some messages. Yep, that seems like it's good. So we have the 4 notifications right there. So if we go ahead and activate this client, it should clear the notifications though. And now let's do a quit here. And I gotta fix these sleep timers here. Yeah, cleared them up. Oh yeah, last thing we did not check last time is if we do option 2, let's see if it shows the main server, and it should show 2 runs of the main server. So this is all the logs. Yep, main server 2. This is the new input we just added, and you can see the threads are all in there. The port is exactly how we set it up, running as a daemon. So yeah, everything looks nice and smooth. We can go ahead and enter the chat mode. So it looks like it's working all right. And that's it. So let's see you guys next time. We're gonna be fixing some user input errors, and we're also gonna work on a way to close these sockets, because right now we're not handling closing these connections at all. So that's what's coming up next, and I'll see you guys next time.